I would like to call the Peoria Public Schools Board of Education meeting for January 22nd, 2024 to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Costi? Mr. Claus?
Here.
Mrs. McConnell? Dr. Ranking?
Here.
Mrs. Ross? Mr. Wilson?
Here.
President Murphy?
Here.
We have 4 present.
Thank you. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and before we begin, I would like to just draw your attention to the boards to my left from WCTC, all the different programs and amazing services that they're teaching our students. If you get a chance, come up and take a look at those after the program or after the board meeting. And to my right, we have Glen Oak School. A lot of really good pictures of the kids performing or showcasing how they are committed, hopeful, accountable, resilient, grit, excellence, and remarkable. So thank you to both Glen Oak and WCTC for the boards we have. All right, moving on. I'd like to. Oh, did Paris just sign? Okay. Paris just won. Okay. Moving on now to announcements. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, thank you, President Murphy. Special thanks to Sean Livingston. Peoria High School alumni and former NBA player Sean Livingston returned to Peoria High recently to award the top 15 seniors at Peoria High School with brand new iPads. We thank the Sean and Reggie Livingston Foundation for their assist with supporting the students. Also, the Mark Bill School is hosting a chess tournament on Saturday, February 3rd. Doors open at 8 a.m. with registration open until 9 a.m. The first round starts at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Boundary waiver application. Applications are now open at psd150.org/boundary waiver until February 1st. Waivers allow PPS students to apply for attendance at another school within the district. And FAFSA reminder, high schoolers and guardians, if you have not completed the FAFSA, this is your sign to get started or ask your counselor for help if needed. Filling out the FAFSA as soon as possible is required for anyone seeking financial aid towards college or technical schools. Reach out to your school counselor for more information.
Thank you.
Peoria High School Dance Team. Congratulations to the Peoria High School Dance Team. They have won regionals and are now headed to the state competition. And the Teacher Ready program. PPS is getting teacher ready with a new alternative accelerated path to earning a teaching license. The Teacher Ready program is tuition-free and requires a 3-year commitment at PPS for those with a bachelor's degree looking to earn their teaching license. Find out more on our website? Yes, find out more on our website.
30929. Text 309, right, Helena?
Text teacher to 30929.
Text teacher to 30929 for more information.
Thank you. Superintendent Learn at Home Challenge. This new initiative challenges K-8 students to learn at home with incentives that include a bike, a tablet, or a gift card. The program is funded by the... There we go. And now we have Peoria High Athletics Director honored. Peoria High Athletic Director Brian Dunphy was awarded the ITCCCA Distinguished Service Award on January 12th at Eaglewood Resort in Itasca, Illinois, which honors those who support and contribute to prep running sport. Congratulations, Brian Dunphy. All right. Moving along, we're going on now to the Remarkable Spirit, Mr. Chris Rowetter.
All right. Good evening, President Murphy, Vice President Dr. Ranking, distinguished board members, Dr. Karat, CFO Board Treasurer Mr. Willis, and Board Secretary Ms. Ross. In an effort to acknowledge staff members who a lot of times don't necessarily get the recognition that they deserve, I have the pleasure this evening to do just that. First, I would like to call up one of our phenomenal principals in the district. We all know how amazing she is, like 2023 Golden Apple Award amazing. The principal of Charter Oak Primary School, Mrs. Kathy Rodriguez. I I would also like to bring up Mrs. Consuelo Spawn. Mrs. Spawn is a remarkable secretary at Charter Oak. Mrs. Rodriguez is going to tell you a little bit something about Mrs. Spawn and why we are recognizing her this evening.
Superintendent Karat, Board President Murphy, members of the Board of Education, I appreciate the opportunity to share my excitement and gratitude for a Charter Oak staff member. Our secretary, Mrs. Consuelo Spawn, is second to none, and I'm honored to tell you why. There are so many great things about her, it's hard to know where to start. She's a dedicated employee with nearly perfect attendance. But even when she's out like today, on a remote day of learning, she was still working behind the scenes, volunteering her time. She is a problem solver and contributes to getting us out of tricky situations, like when we have 5 people out and 1 substitute. She is amazing. She can figure out puzzles like that, and she solves situations with the least amount of disruption to student learning. She is creative and helps any teacher with their projects. She's always willing to go above and beyond the job to help. She's even taken laminated pieces home to cut out so teachers don't have to. She is helpful to everyone that comes in. She is one of our attendance champions for students. She makes the most amazing treats for staff and gives up her lunch so students can buy a Sweets with Spawn lunch appointment with her from school store. But one of the most impressive things that she personally hand writes postcards to every student of the week to congratulate them on their accomplishment. That's 544 postcards a year. She does that on her own time. She decorates the bulletin boards and office door, making it a welcoming and inviting place for all. She does what is best for students, embracing the shared school culture and beliefs. She is truly deserving of recognition for her outstanding job performance and her great service to the school community. Her great sense of humor, her servant heart is what stands out the most. Her nickname is Tink. The Disney Tinkerbell character is where we got that because we all think she is part fairy. The way she magically gets everything done with a smile and with a bow or ribbon on top. Congratulations to our beloved secretary, Mrs. Spawn, who has her beautiful and very active Peoria Public School family behind to watch her get her recognition. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations to you. I'm just thinking about the over 500 postcards that you write makes my hand cramp just thinking about that. So that alone is impressive and amazing. For your family that showed up tonight, would you also stand up? It seems like this is a great team effort here. Do you have anything that you'd like to say up at the podium? I don't know that you... No, nothing that you wanted to add?
I'm a behind the scenes girl.
We appreciate what you do.
Thank you. That was so beautiful.
So, thank you. Yep, absolutely. All right, up next we have Mr. Brandon Bell.
Good evening, President Murphy, Vice President Rankings, Dr. Karat, fellow board members. I have my team up here, Mr. Carl Somerville, Mr. Justin Hoffman, as we are here tonight. And we want to say, first of all, thank you for allowing us this platform to recognize one of our own. So this evening, we're here tonight to recognize one of our own for the Remarkable Spirit Award. This is a gentleman who comes in and day out, oftentimes working behind the scenes. When inclement weather presents itself, he's here to ensure that the buildings are safe, staff members are able to enter the building safely. He goes above and beyond, helping others, all the way to helping them jump their cars, getting, just today, assisted with a staff member that was stuck in a ditch, risking damage to his own vehicle. I can't say enough positive things about somebody who goes above and beyond to help our staff and our students. So tonight, we're delighted to announce Mason Todd for the Remarkable Spirit Award. He displays exceptional dedication, hard work, and attention to detail, which is what truly sets him apart from others. Mr. Todd goes above and beyond, as I've said previously, to ensure the school environment is clean, safe, and welcoming for all. His commitment to excellence and teamwork has made a significant impact on the overall well-being of our school community. So, Mr. Todd, if you could come up here, please. Mr. Todd, you're truly appreciated. We appreciate all your hard work that you do for our students, staff, and the public. So, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank the board for having me. I thank my staff, my supervisors. And it's all about love. That's all it's about.
Thank you, Mr. Todd, for all that you do and all about love. Well, we sure love all the work that you do for us and everyone involved. Did you have anybody that came with you this evening? Yes. Oh, Mr. Todd, did you have anybody that came with you this evening? No. No? Okay, that's okay.
April Todd is here with Mason Todd.
All right, well, let's give it a
Okay, Mr. Todd, you have to behave now. Be good.
All right, moving on. We are not doing remarkable student this evening and awards and recognitions this evening, so we're moving on now to district presentation. First, we have Advantage Communications Update.
All right, board. This is Mariella, and she is going to present about the amazing work that she is doing with our students here in the district.
I honestly can't believe it's been 3 years that we've had the speech and debate program here at Peoria School District. I just want to thank Dr. Karat and the board for entrusting Advantage Communications with the speech and debate program. And with that, I want to say that we introduced the hybrid model last year, and this was really an aim to make sure that a lot of the skills that students had while they were online weren't just going to disappear. And it is my pleasure to let you know that since introducing the hybrid model, we've actually seen our students' memorization and reading skills skyrocket. And the reason is because now, instead of them thinking, how am I doing, maybe getting the feedback afterwards from a coach, they're able to look back at a video of themselves and they can really start reflecting on, okay, that's something I need to work on. But the great thing about this growth mindset that they have is that they're really working on their presence online and offline. And we know that that is not easy for a lot of students to do. This has also resulted in more students preparing for a second performance by the first semester. Usually it happens second semester. By the first semester, we've already had half of our students with the second performance. The other thing that has happened is that a lot of our students are now not punished for not being able to attend a tournament, right? We know that weekends can be difficult for parents to give up, but now with this hybrid model, students are able to participate in the tournament regardless of whether or not they're able to show up in person. And that means that they get the feedback regardless of whether or not they can attend those Saturday tournaments. Our tournaments have also grown significantly, so much so that since we added the 5 new schools this year, we're actually running out of space in the gyms. So fortunately, this upcoming tournament, Fort Allen, will be big enough for us, but it's a good problem to have because since now having 12 schools, we're starting to see that there are many other schools in the city that are looking for the program. Now, one of the things that we have been able to see in the growth of the program is that at this time, we have about 472 students registered, with 261 of them being active every single week. And that means by active, they're able to attend every single practice after school, and they're also able to go to the tournaments. But one of the things that we also want to celebrate today is that this competitive activity shouldn't really just celebrate the students that get first place or the students that get to go up into the stage to get a trophy. One of the things that we have seen is that we've achieved the two parts of our personal and community needs goals. Last year, our focus was teaching students how to win and lose gracefully, knowing that in life is going to sometimes be a competition, but that's okay. It's okay if you put in all your effort and sometimes you don't win. That doesn't mean we should give up, right? And our students have adopted this mindset. On the community level, we're teaching students how to identify what each of them is doing well, what they can improve on, and identifying highlights of their performance. So much so that when students are going to tournaments, what they're looking for is friends. They're looking for a network. And that is really important because our next goal this year was networking. We want students to understand that going to these competitions or even being part of this community is not just about exercising their reading skills or exercising their public speaking skills. It's about something much bigger. It's about community. And one of the personal goals that students are achieving day in and day out this year is to have a growth mindset where they really think about what are the tools in front of me that I have and how can I be resourceful. And in doing so, they're also finding those tools for their community. They're learning how to see their competition as an opportunity to network, where if they do see a student that maybe beat them at a competition, right? That's not somebody that you have to compete with. That's somebody you call in to be your friend. That's somebody you call in to be part of your network. And that has dramatically changed the way that our students are now participating in the program because I'm sure all of us have that competitive nature in ourselves, right? But at some point we had to learn that you don't win alone and you don't do anything alone. It has to be done by a community. And our students are now starting to really exercise those skills. They're starting to fill in the gaps where they see them. They're starting to give each other feedback in a way that is constructive rather than breaking each other down. And because of that, now we're starting to see that it's getting a little harder to give you that list of 6 every year of who's going to be going to California. But the students that did make it to the California trip this year have been outstanding, to say the least. Not only are they above the grade point average of the district, some of them even sporting a 4.0. They are also some of the best student leaders and the ones that are always cheering students on. I would love to celebrate 2 of our students that are here. I'll name all of them today, but our youngest student to ever qualify is here with me today. Her name is Kirsten Gordon from Von Steuben. She's a 6th grader with the 4.0, and she would like to share just a little bit of her presentation. Kirsten?
Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. On the page headed May 17, 2155, she wrote, "Tommy found a real book. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather told her that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was once a time where all the stories were printed on paper. They turned the pages, which are yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still, instead of moving, the way they're supposed to, on a screen, you know. And then, when they turned to the pages before, it had the same words it had had when they read it the first time." Thank you for sponsoring our California trip. I am so blessed I was selected, and I'll try my hardest. Thank you.
All right. We also have one of our students that actually broke all three of her events at the California trip, including a Spanish event. So she'll also be representing us in California, and her name is Marisol Sebastian from Annie Jo Gordon, 7th grade.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Should we explain to the other children the world is not a good place to live in? No, you shouldn't. Teaching them that they should be fearful and helpless is very unfair. Children should be protected from scary things, not told that scary things are constant and should always be expected. I grew up being treated like a princess, so this made me treat other girls like princesses and boys like princes. I showered people with love from a young age. I trusted, confined, and gave, just like my parents did for me. Thank you. I'm very proud to be here tonight, and I'm going to try my best to represent Peoria in California.
Alrighty, I could speak about how great they're gonna do, but you got a preview. I think we'll do fine in California. Kirsten is representing a story from Isaac Asimov about a day when we will cease to see books. And of course, she's advocating that we need to have them. And Marisol is actually advocating that at the end of the day, while we want to protect our students from everything that is going on in the world, it's better if we have the conversations about what is going on in the world instead of ignoring the issues. And I think those messages are going to ring true for a lot of students that maybe don't hear that out there in California. So I'm excited to take them. The other thing that I wanted to say is that while we're out there in California preparing to bring you back a school title or maybe a first place trophy, we will also be preparing for our next tournament, which will be on February 27th. We will have our own Mardi Gras here in Peoria. So if anybody from the guests here today would like to come and check out our program, if you would like to volunteer to judge, or if you just simply want to see the students perform at their best, that is going to be on February 27th at Fort Allen from 9 to 2 p.m. And all I have to say is that, you know, years ago, I was helping a lot of students in more affluent areas with winning national titles. But a little bird called Talima told me about this wonderful program here in Peoria and convinced me to come here. And it's been the best decision that I've ever made. I see so much love from everybody and what they do. And I really thank you for entrusting me with leading this program. And I cannot wait to show you what we're gonna do as we go forward. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, thank you very much for making that move to Peoria. We certainly appreciate what you're doing for our students right now. And to the two students that came up and shared a little bit of theirs earlier, that takes a lot of bravery and guts to get up in front of a room of people. You guys did it very eloquently. You did very well. Both of you are speaking on topics that I'm very passionate about, so I would be very interested to have and see and get to hear the whole thing that you're going to be presenting. So best of luck out in California to you, and also good luck with you at the Mardi Gras event in February. So. All right, moving on now to the fiscal year 23 audit, Mr. Adam Pulley.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Adam Pulley with Clifton Larson Allen, principal in charge of the fiscal year 2023 audit. We will be issuing that later this month, and just wanted to present to you our results of the audit. So we can go ahead and go to the next page here, and really the first 3 pages I'm not going to spend much of any time on. It's just showing, this one particularly is showing revenue of each of the fund this year compared to last year. And the next slide, if we can go to that one, is going to be the expense side. All in all, the causes of the increases for the activity as a whole is largely grant related. The revenue is being recognized as well as the spend down of those grants. The next slide is going to be fund balance trends over the last 3 years of those funds. Once again, I'm not going to spend time on it. It's just really more for reference than anything else. So yes, thank you. Draft findings that we have here, and there is not anticipation of being more findings. But so we did have 2 material weakness items, which were both repeats from last year. These are financial audit findings. First one being is that we did come in and we assisted the district in proposing several adjusting entries to help get the financial statements under GAAP, as they call it, generally accepted accounting principles. Secondly, bank reconciliations on the whole were not entirely timely, and there were some reconciling adjustments that were necessary in order to get the financial statements to be in a spot that we can issue an unqualified, or in other words, a clean audit opinion. And I should have led with that. We are going to be issuing an unmodified or a clean audit opinion on both the financial statements, as well as what's known as a single audit, which is our testing of the compliance with the federal grant requirements that the district has to abide by. So those are the financial statement items. As far as the single audit is concerned, again, that's federal grant compliance. We did come across one finding in the child nutrition cluster. That's going to be that third bullet there. When we were testing the reports that were submitted to ISB, it's not that we noted any discrepancies or anything wrong with the reports, but there is a requirement that there's an internal control over those reports. So we found that the reports were being prepared and submitted timely, but there is a requirement that there's an approval and a review of those reports beforehand. So that's what the finding is. It's not a compliance finding, it's an internal control finding. So that's what we had in terms of findings. We did come across at the bottom there, it's not a finding level item, but what we would call an other matter or a recommendation. And this is an item that we did come across last year. The district's policy would be is that their general disbursements do get approved before payment. Again, it's not that we saw anything improprietous or any issue with the nature of the disbursement itself. It's just that in the sample of 22 items that we selected, we did come across 3 that did not have that approval prior to it being paid. And also we did a little bit of testing in some of the activity funds, specifically the Peoria High School, the one item we saw had the same issue. So in all respects, we do of course just recommend that those controls be tightened where possible. Now, to contextualize a little bit of those items, we did come across 3 findings. That is down from 5 findings from the year before. So at least purely from an audit perspective, I would suggest that going through the audit this year compared to FY22, there were certainly improvements. So not just the number of findings, but also the magnitude of the findings. Whereas we had audit adjustments in FY22 and FY23, there were less in FY23. As far as the bank reconciliations were concerned, some of the discrepancies or things that needed to be tweaked and corrected, there was less of that, and it was more timely this year. So it was improved from FY22. This last slide that I have here goes over some bullets of another item that we issue besides the audit reports on the financial statements and the single audit. This is what's known as our letter to governance. Really, it's our opportunity to express to the board if we came across any issues, any significant disagreements with management. For the most part, it's boilerplate. We did note, and we do have to note, there was a delay in issuance as the statutory requirement is December 15th. We obviously are going to be issuing here in January. The reason for that is largely the bank reconciliations that we noted, as well as there is a new significant accounting pronouncement that came out starting this year, and that did take a good amount of time, but that will not be an issue going forward in future years. It's really more of an implementation issue in FY23. I guess that's the only other thing that's worth noting. I noted improvement in a few areas. The issuance here, we will have a report date of January compared to FY22, which had a report date of March, so it's certainly going in the right direction. Nothing else that I really had to report to the board or to the group at this time. I would be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Do any board members have any questions for Mr. Pulley on the audit?
Mr. Murphy, I have a question.
Okay. Ms. Ross?
Okay, yes. Can you give me an example, Mr. Pulley? How you doing tonight? Can you give me an example of an exception that is the same or different from last year?
I'm sorry, can you say that
You
again?
said there were several exceptions. And could you give me an example of what kind of exceptions there were?
Are you referring to like audit adjustments from the first finding?
Yes.
Okay, yep.
I think it was the last page. They moved the page already, so I think it was close to the last page there you were talking about.
Yeah, so as far as audit adjustments are concerned, I'd go back one more slide, I think referring to the first bullet. If you're not, certainly let me know. But for the most part, the audit adjustments, and it does note there, is to help the district get from a cash basis to an accrual basis of accounting, which is required by generally accepted accounting principles. So this would be...
On that particular issue, haven't we been working on that, Mr. Willis? No, for a number of years, trying to get from accrual to cash basis? Or cash to accrual, whichever. Haven't we been working on that for a number of years?
No, we've been accrual based for a number of years, and we have had the auditors assist in converting basically cash basis statements to accrual. Some of those entries are easier than others, and in future years, I would anticipate that we would handle the majority of those adjustments. Our goal is to handle them all, but that's an aggressive goal.
Okay, I'll look over I'm sure you have a document there. I'll look over that so I can get my questions in later.
All right, were there any other questions? All right, seeing and hearing none, thank you very much, Mr. Pulley. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your hard work in doing this and your team. And of course, our accounting team, thank you very much for all of your work and improvements over the last year. So it's good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, and thank you for keeping us updated. All right, moving on now to the Quest rechartering. Fraser Satterley.
So I'll introduce Fraser President Murphy. So good evening, President Murphy, Vice President Rankin, members of the board, members of the listening audience. Again, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to provide input on Quest's renewal application in my capacity as superintendent, who is the chief education officer for the district. The matter about which we have gathered here to discuss today is it's heavy and consequential for all of us in this room and for the listening audience in our community. Why? Because we're talking about the education of all students, our students currently at Quest. And let me make one thing clear. As the chief education officer, I care every bit about each of Quest students as those who are enrolled in PPS's district schools. I should also mention that I care about all students as I do my own biological child. My personal and professional sense of duty demands that I hold this view. With what I just shared as a premise, I will address the matter at hand. Presenting on behalf of the administration is Mrs. Fraser Satterley. She's attorney and partner with the District Legal Counsel's officer, Hodges, Louisi, Eisenhammer, Roddick, and Cohn, popularly known as HLERC. Mrs. Satterley has been meeting with the district's rechartering team for quite some time and going over all of the rechartering documents and indicators. Without any further ado, I present to you Attorney Fraser Satterley. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
That's probably par for the course for everybody, right? All right. All right, thank you, Dr. Karat, for that introduction. Mr. Murphy, Dr. Reinking, members of the board, and to all the community members and stakeholders present this evening, welcome and thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present the district's data and recommendation regarding Quest renewal application in my capacity as counsel for the board. As Dr. Karat stated, my name is Fraser Satterley. You all know me. I am here locally in your Peoria office. I'm a partner at HLERC. And I have been working with the district throughout this rechartering process that we've mutually engaged in with Quest. So, next slide, Michelle, thank you. So I want to take a moment to introduce the district's team members who were involved in the rechartering. Obviously, Dr. Karat, Dr. Ikejakum, Associate Superintendent for Human Resources. With respect to the academic pillar, Dr. Sandy Wilson, who is retired, provided input along with her team, Dr. Ann Bond and Anna Rose, for the academic pillar. The finance pillar was Mick Willis, Chief Financial Officer, as well as, I'm going to mispronounce her name. I think it's Jasa. Did I say that correctly? All right. Is she here tonight? She's not. Oh, okay. I thought she would. Jasa Dwyer. And then with the operations pillar, that was Dr. Ikjaku and Jerry Hammer, the Director of Employee Services. There are a number of other members of the district's administration who had a large role in compiling and synthesizing this data and putting it into a format that is easily digestible, for the board members and for the members of the public, and frankly for me, because that is your wheelhouse, and thank goodness for it. Not all of us are equipped to do it. So I'm here to talk about those numbers, but again, some of these team members include Shannon Marlin, the Director of Student Affairs, and her team, Tracy Donath, I said Jerry Hammer, Josh Collins, the Director of Transportation. There are others who I've surely missed, but for that I apologize, but thank you all. As Dr. Karat indicated, and I want to reiterate to everyone here tonight, that this process and the ultimate recommendation, they were not entered into lightly, and the decisions and recommendation are not being made lightly. The board's decision tonight is certainly an important one, and it's one that impacts our students, the students of Quest, their families, and the staff members at Quest. So, jumping right in. I'm not going to spend much time on this because you all have all seen this before. It is the state of the law, but nonetheless, it's here for you to review. It's in the materials that are provided to you in those binders. The law requires, there are certain parameters within the law regarding rechartering. As you know, Quest is seeking a 5-year renewal through fiscal year 28-29. In order to do so, a school must apply for a renewal prior to the charter expiring. They must provide a progress report and a financial statement. The board ultimately makes a decision after reviewing this information, and if the process were to get to this point, an appeal of a decision to non-renew or revoke a charter is reviewed now by the Illinois State Board of Education. It used to be the Quest Charter, the State Charter Commission, but that has since been abolished. So it is now the State Board of Education that reviews those and makes those decisions. In terms of what they consider and what the board here tonight has to consider, the decision has to be based on the following things. One, whether or not the charter school, Quest in this instance, complied with the charter school laws as set forth in that statute right there, 105 ILCS 5-27A-9. Excuse me. I apologize. Whether or not they complied with charter school laws, and whether or not the best interests of the students in which Quest has operating, whether or not those students has been served. Next slide, please. Thank you. You all have seen this before, I imagine. These are general principles of charter school authorization. Again, District 150 is the authorizing entity for Quest charter schools, and these are conducted in the renewal decision is made with these best practice chartering principles in mind, and that is to maintain high standards, uphold school autonomy, and protect student outcomes. And you will see that theme throughout the presentation of the data, and ultimately played a role in the recommendation that the administration is making tonight to the Board of Education. Brief charter history. Quest was initially established in 2010, and the term of the original charter was for 5 years. In that time, there have been 4 subsequent renewals. In 2015 was a renewal of the charter. In 2020, not so long ago, but post-pandemic, it feels like ages ago, there was a conditional renewal. Instead of a 5-year renewal term that Quest asked for, it was 2 years. In 23, Quest was granted an extension of the charter. Again, that was largely a function of operating in a pandemic and post-pandemic world. So now here we are in 2023. As you know, on November 30th, we received Quest's charter renewal application, and they are due for recertification in 2024. A couple of quick facts, and the enrollment piece we'll come back to as we discuss some of the academic pillar issues. This includes the enrollment data. It only goes back from 15 to 16. I don't know that we need to do a full historical deep dive into what the enrollment numbers have been. I think this is plenty of information for the board to consider. As you can see, after the 2017-18 school year, Quest enrollment numbers have been in steady decline, with the most recent being its lowest enrollment yet at 392 total for the middle school and the high school. A couple of points on this. Quest has noted in its materials that were provided to us and in rebuttal that the charter schools' maximum enrollment is 600, and there's no express enrollment requirement or retainment rate under our current charter agreement. And while that may be true, I think the decline in enrollment can be viewed as indicative of a larger problem or even a general, perhaps, unhappiness, or this is a choice school, a choice to no longer enroll in Quest based on the programming that students can get by virtue of going to their home schools at PPS. In terms of financial pieces, just the payment. I'm not going to go through these numbers, but just so you have the data in front of you, these are the tuition payments that are made. It's my understanding from Mr. Willis that the tuition payments are made on a per pupil basis. Is that correct? All payments, it encompasses not only the tuition payments, but other costs, which includes the cost of transportation, which under the current charter agreement, the district also takes care of. And that includes transportation and some state and federal grants. Expectations agreement. This is essentially the purpose of the charter school law. What was it set out to do? What did our legislature have in mind when they put this into place to allow for schools and chartering entities, or authorizing entities to create these charter schools? I don't need to go point by point, but ultimately the idea is to improve pupil learning by providing high and rigorous academic standards. The beauty of charter schools is supposed to be generally that they're innovative teaching methods. They don't have as many strict parameters under the school code as a normal functioning general public school district would. So the idea is choice, an innovative curriculum or teaching methods, high academic and rigorous standards, and again, some school autonomy in doing that. The rechartering timeline. Dr. Crott mentioned that we've been working hand in hand with Quest, and again, I have to thank them. This process is always collaborative. It goes very smoothly. We jointly created this rechartering timeline with the dates that you see there, the big ticket items you're aware of. We provided a preliminary performance report on August 31st to Quest. Their renewal application was due by November 30th, which we received on December 11th. This board opened the forum to Quest to present in response to our preliminary performance report, which it did. The charter renewal decision, obviously, is taking place tonight after this, and then depending on what the board's ultimate decision is, we have timelines in place for either one of those potential options. Excuse me. This is just a general slide letting you know what's considered in the various pillars that are up for discussion tonight. I'm not going to read from the slide. The board is familiar with these, what's in academics, what operations is composed of, and finance. And the biggest two pieces tonight, spoiler alert, academics, okay, and some on operations, okay? All right, and we will get right into the academic support goals. So as the board knows, as part of the charter agreement that we had entered into last time, there's an appendix which includes performance goals. It's Appendix A to the charter agreement. You all have it. Basically, those performance indicators were pulled out and were used as the metric to determine whether or not Quest was meeting the academic goals that was put in place via the charter. So let's go to the first one. The academic designation of the high school. This is an Illinois State Board of Education ranking. The goal was for Quest High School to attain a commendable rating, which it has done from fiscal year 21 through 23. So they have met that performance goal. The issue comes, however, with the designation for the middle school. Again, for the terms of this particular contract, the goal was that for each of those years, the middle school attain a commendable rating. And while we certainly can applaud Quest Middle School for reaching the commendable rating for fiscal year 23, the problem is that in fiscal year 21 and 22, they remained targeted. Just a quick point on this, and you may have seen this in Quest's presentation, for purposes of the Illinois State Report Card, Quest is treated as a 5 through 12 academy. In the charter agreement, we said the high school has to reach commendable and the middle school has to reach commendable. So while some of these, if you look at it overall, they say you have a commendable rating, that's not exactly the performance indicator that we wanted to see as part of our charter agreement. We wanted to see both schools meet the commendable rating. We got this information, we got this information from ISBE's IWAS system, which is the platform where schools communicate data to the state board, and it distinguishes or differentiates between the middle school and the high school. In terms of the state assessment, the Illinois readiness assessment, Quest did not attain the contractual 2% increase in growth in this indicator, as you can see from the numbers in 22 and 23. There was no data for 21 because there was nothing to compare it to in terms of growth. You have to have those years, and the assessment was not provided in 2020, and we all know why. I can talk a little bit more about this. Again, this isn't particularly my wheelhouse. There is a difference between growth and proficiency. The indicator that we used as part of the Quest charter agreement this time was growth, which actually skews in favor of Quest because proficiency is a lot harder to get its proficiency, the number of students on grade level. This is simply growth. I don't know if I did a very good job explaining that, but Tracy is giving me the thumbs up. If you have questions about that, I promise you she is much more articulate and knowledgeable about it than I am. So thank you, Tracy, for that. With respect to IAR math, Quest did meet its goal of a 2% increase in growth on this particular indicator. Goal 5 was the pre-SAT, the 8 and 9 standardized test. Quest also met this goal of a 2.5% increase. As you can see, from fiscal year 22 to 23, there was about a 4% increase. Excuse me. The PSAT 10 standardized test, they did not meet this particular goal. The goal required a 2.5% increase, and as you can see, it was a 2%. The Illinois Science Assessment, Quest also did not meet this performance indicator. In fact, there was a fairly significant decrease from fiscal year 22 to 23. Okay, I do want to spend a little bit of time on this particular slide. This is the SAT, the Scholastic Aptitude Test. Quest did not attain a contractual 2.5% increase composite score for school day administration. And you're probably looking at the indicators and thinking, well, that's not exactly what those numbers say. Fair. But the indicator that we were using for purposes of the agreement was a composite score. Quest has conceded in their rebuttal documents that they did not meet this goal. If we want to talk about it simply as a raw number as opposed to a percentage, we would look at the actual composite scores. For fiscal year 21, 22, and 23, their numbers were 825, 808, and 756 respectively. So that actually shows a 2.1% decrease between fiscal year 21 and 22, and a 6.3% decrease from fiscal year 22 to 23 with respect to this particular test or assessment and that goal. The attendance rate. Quest did not attain the contractual 94% attendance rate as reported in the Illinois report card. There was some progress made, as you can see, 82.9%, 82.7%, and then a jump to 85.2% in fiscal year 23. Of course, that's not the goal, and there has been a lot of conversation about the fact that this 94% attendance rate is no longer attainable now that we are operating in a post-pandemic world. But of course, at the time that this was extended, this was the goal. And we can provide some data. We did not do it here, but some comparison data from district to state attendance levels. At any rate, the goal is the goal, and it was not, this particular part was not met. State assessment, 9th grade on track. I learned some stuff about 9th grade on track and why we use this particular, why this particular metric is used by the Illinois State Board of Education, and it's part of the report card. It has a huge, basically it's a large indicator of whether or not freshmen will ultimately graduate. It's about graduation rates, right? 9th grade on track, meaning on track is they're taking 5 full courses, so 10 credit hours. They've taken 10 credit hours and have received only 1 F in a core class. That is the baseline metric for 9th grade on track. And again, it's a positive indication. It's positively correlated with graduation rates. Quest did not attain this particular goal during the contract term. It was to meet or exceed the state benchmark, and as you can see, at the top there's the state benchmark data, below is Quest score. To be fair, in 23, they were only about 0.3 of a percentage point off, but the goal was for the entire time. There were obviously some pretty large variances there between 21 and 22. Graduation rate. Quest also did not attain the graduation rate goal during the contract term. The goal, again, was to meet or exceed the state benchmark on this indicator as defined by the Illinois School Report Card. I think you all know where you wanted to independently access that data. It's all online and available to the public, but the state's benchmarks are above and Quest's score is there below. So just a quick summary, and I think this is a very useful visual. Of the 11 goals that were included as part of the Quest Charter Agreement, of the 11 goals, 3 were met. That's approximately 27% meet rate. So there are a couple of other areas of concern which were not expressly included as part of the performance benchmarks or goals under the charter agreement. Student discipline is noted in the charter agreement in terms of complying with SB 100 and implementing a sound discipline policy that complies with SB 100. But we continue to see issues with some of the with the discipline data that's coming out of Quest. And I'll go ahead and have you go to the next slide. Thank you. As you can see, for fiscal year 22 and 23, we're looking at referrals of 5,600 referrals, a little over 2,500 for fiscal year 23. In fiscal year 2022, of those referrals, they were 4,044, or about 72.2% of were classified as no action. That number decreased significantly in fiscal year 23, but that was thanks in large part to a significant amount of oversight by the district in reviewing the data and seeing that some of these referrals were entered into the system without any action. That is important because documented referrals with no action means that there was no documented parent contact, interventions that were tried, etc. Again, not a material breach of the contract, but certainly has a negative impact on student learning and is indicative of a larger problem and potentially violative of the spirit of SB 100. Just a brief note, 7 teachers had over 100 referrals. The highest was 184. Again, this has a negative impact on academic outcomes. What's happening in the classroom management. Are interventions being used? Quest refers to a number of interventions and RTIs, the various tiers that are used, but I'm not really sure, we're not sure from the data what's being implemented in real time. Okay. Again, we believe that the declining enrollment will continue to limit some of the course offerings and opportunities that are available to Quest students. I have more on this on another slide, but there's also some anecdotal evidence that there have been difficulties for families who are seeking to transfer back to the district. And at least at one point, ISB may have had to intervene in order to effectuate the request to transfer back to the child's home school here at PPS. All right. As you all know, the Charter's mission, right, is to provide an innovative STEAM curriculum and academy. The 3-year trend data doesn't align with that particular claim. In particular, for 6 of the courses provided, 5 out of the 6 have had decreasing enrollment, with 2 courses at 0 enrollment for the 22-23 school year. That's civil engineering and anatomy. This is not necessarily a time to compare, but I think it's certainly worth noting that the 3 Peoria Public Schools high schools, Manual, Peoria, and Richwoods, are all also commendable and have an exceeding number of opportunities for rigorous coursework, online learning, fine arts, and extracurriculars to meet the needs of PPS students. Just very briefly on that point, across all 3 Peoria high schools, there are a total of 21 AP courses offered, 55 dual credit courses, and I think Dr. Karad or someone else, in the curriculum department can talk about the D2 program and the dual credit courses that are actually offered on Peoria's campus versus ICC. 271 total courses offered. If we're talking in the STEAM realm, with math, there are 5 AP courses, 2 dual credits, 19 total course offerings. With science, 5 AP courses, 1 dual credit, 19 total course offerings. Fine arts, 1 AP course. No dual credit, but 65 total fine arts course offerings. Career and technical, I think it's worth noting, 45 dual credits, 109 course offerings. All of those are through Woodruff. Happy to report that there is nothing to report with respect to the financial pillar. Mr. Willis reviewed the documents that were provided by Quest, and there were no material issues with the financial data that was provided pursuant to the rechartering process. The operations pillar, as I noted before, this data was compiled in large part by Dr. Ikejaku, with the help of Jerry Hammer and a number of other folks, a number of other administrators. You can go ahead to the next slide, Michelle. Thank you. This is a big ticket item. Under the charter school laws, a charter school is required to retain 75% of its employees must be certified teachers, meaning they have their Pell license under the school code, their professional educator's license. That is a legal requirement. An analysis of Quest EIS submission, and I believe, Dr. Ike, that is the employee information system through the Illinois State Board of Education. Do I have that acronym correct as well? All right. For fiscal year 21 through 24, and that's displayed below, it has been Quest has been non-compliant with this statutory requirement for all 4 years of the charter term that we're currently considering, and I think it's important to even go back. You'll see. I'm sorry, Michelle. If you could go back. We are also documenting this number from fiscal year 16 and 17. At that point, they had met their certified staff requirement. As of fiscal year 18, those numbers were below the 75% threshold, and that is true through fiscal year 23. And that's on the next slide. Teacher retention. Again, this is actually not a particular performance standard that's set out in the charter, but it's an important number, and it all ties together, and that's teacher retention. This is data pulled from the Illinois the Board of Education School Report Card. Quest Charter Schools' current teacher retention rate is 59.6%. And if you go to the next slide, thank you. This is a better graphic. So when we talk about the number of certified teachers, and we look at that when you compare it with teacher retention, the trend does not bode well for Quest. Their numbers are significantly lower than Peoria Public School numbers. They are in the orange. They are significantly lower than the state average for teacher retention. And so when Quest looks at this and says, well, we've been hit hard by the pandemic, there is a national teacher shortage, I understand, but this data cuts against that particular argument in terms of a reason why they don't have enough certified staff. And again, this kind of retention and teacher turnover can have an impact on student learning outcomes. And it has gone up some, but generally speaking, again, you can see it's much lower than the district or the state average. Okay, so now we get to the options. Not incredibly crazy. Option 1, you approve the 5-year renewal on the condition, as has always been the case, that the parties enter into an acceptable charter agreement like we did the last time, 2019-2020. Option 2 is to deny the renewal, and if that were the case, the next steps would be to discuss a school closure plan and what that would mean for the students of Quest and where they would be distributed within Peoria Public Schools. So I'll end with the administration's recommendation, which I know the board is aware of by virtue of the memo that was provided to you earlier this week. Well, it's Monday, so last week or over the weekend. And I know that you're familiar with that. But Quest has been in operation for 14 years. There have been 4 Board of Education approvals or renewals, and the data continues to be lackluster and does not support Quest's contention that it offers strong academics or a robust STEAM academy. You all know this. We are Quest's authorizer. The district is responsible to Quest students as it is to PPS students. And the board, in making this decision, has to consider, in light of this data, as dry as it can be, whether or not it remains in the student's best interest to renew Quest's charter. Throughout the course of this, we have been involved in this process with the board for a number of years. But I want to highlight the fact that previous renewals were based, for the most part, right? There was some reasonable growth towards meeting performance goals, but has largely been based on the promise of continued growth and the need for additional time to realize those performance benchmarks. So the real crux of the question, I think, that's before the board is how much time does Quest actually need to meet these goals? And I don't think that the board can view this in a vacuum. I think you have to. I think you can't just take fiscal year 21 through 24 and look at this and say, well, this requires renewal or not. I think you have to look at the overall performance as Quest as a whole from 2010 to now. And I think there have been deficiencies that have been present pre-pandemic, particularly with respect to the certified staff numbers. In Quest's presentation, they have framed this as reasonable progress, and I will certainly acknowledge that the charter agreement and the charter law talks about making reasonable progress. But again, the crux of the issue is how long are we going to have to make reasonable progress, and how long is that going to be sufficient without actually meeting those performance benchmarks? And then just the final thing, we talk about reasonable progress. In this particular instance, the SAT composite scores and the Illinois Science Assessment, in those particular areas where Quest did not meet, their numbers actually decreased. So it is the district's, the administration's recommendation that the board not approve Quest charter renewal at this time. And I will open the floor for questions for me or to any members of the team who helped compile all of this data. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Do any board members have any questions that they would like to ask? Fraser? Yep. Dr. Ranking?
Fraser, for that 75% of teachers who are certified and it's a legal obligation, at what point does the Illinois State Board of Education come down on PPS when that is not being complied with as the charter holder of Quest?
That's an excellent question that I wish I knew the answer to. Thus far, the Illinois State Board of Education has not come down on the authorizer in terms of this failure to meet that statutory threshold. I think the question for the board is how much longer can they continue to be in non-compliance with this, and what impact is that having to the educational outcomes if we don't have certified teachers? And I'm not talking about, we're not even talking about teachers with endorsement in the particular areas that they're teaching. We're simply talking about certified teachers. I don't know the answer. There's not a lot out there on that particular issue, but I know that if the board is making a decision, that, to me, this legal requirement and the failure to meet it certainly meets the test that the Illinois State Board of Education would be reviewing if the board were to non-renew and the matter was appealed. I wish I had a more definitive answer for you. I do not.
Yeah, I guess that's a wider question of only meeting 3 of the areas. I forgot how many you said. 3 out of
11.
3 out of 11. So all of the things that are not in compliance, because we are their charter holders, because we are responsible for the students, we are responsible for their education, we are responsible for, their academic success, their social emotional success. At what point, and you again may have an ambiguous answer, at what point does that, are there repercussions?
I don't know that there are any particular legal ramifications. I think really that's more of a question for the board.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Ross.
Were you finished, Dr. Rankin?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Fraser, I wonder how many other charter schools are there in Illinois? I know that downstate they were supposed to have 5, and the rest were up in the Chicago area. Have you? Well, I don't know. You asked the question. How many other charter schools did you look at in comparison?
Well, I didn't compare Quest data to any other charter schools because I don't think that's an apples to apples comparison, Ms. Ross. And to answer your question, I actually did at one point know how many charter schools there were, and that number has flown through my head as soon as you asked that question. But I can certainly provide that information. It would just be a quick lookup, and I can get that information to you. But no, we didn't do a comparison of Quest compared to where they are in other charter schools. Other charter schools have different missions. Other charter schools don't focus on STEAM. They focus on fine arts or foreign language. I'm just, off the top of my head. But no, we did not do that comparison, as I don't think it would be fair to either Quest or frankly to the district to make that comparison. I think we have to look at what it means for our students and what it means particularly under our charter school agreement.
Well, I understand that part of it, but you were saying that these are state mandates, and I'm wondering, won't all the charter schools have the same state mandates? Now, as it relates to the teacher certifications, you said that they were out of compliant this year, and when I pulled the data, there was like 78.9% of staff in the high school that was certified in 71% in the middle school. Are those not the numbers that you have?
Those are not the numbers that I have.
Okay.
Dr. Ike, I think Dr. Ike has the EIS data that we used in putting this together.
Yeah. Dr. Ike or Shannon and Renata?
Okay, well, I was going to say with
it's in the system, so
So
it's
the,
easy to pull up. Go ahead, Doc.
The EIS data that they provide to us and the the September 1 data. Twice a year, we get a report from them, and then there's a dedicated staff in HR office that takes the time to go online and check certifications and then provide.
Okay, so Dr. Ike, I can hardly hear you, but are you saying that from are you counting from August 1 to September 1, you say? And that's when you get the numbers? You haven't got the most recent numbers?
EIS data, I think it comes in October, but then there's a September 1 submission that Quest gives us every September 1. So we look at both data.
Okay. So I guess I was just trying to see where you get the comparisons from, because as board president last year, I was concerned about the and the one area, I don't see it right now, but I was concerned about the what I call unrealistic goals that were set by the district for some of the requests that you had. I always thought they were unrealistic to some degree. I do have the charter law. I pulled it all. It's all 46 pages. And so I do my homework when I speak on something. So I was just wondering about that. Basically, I would like to say, this is not about personalities. It is about children. And I was here when we started the charter school. And of course, we've had several managers within that charter school over the years. I see you went back all the way back to 16, 17, whenever we started. But we've had several managers there who performed about the same or about the same as the current managers there, or the current system that's there. And as I said, this is, for me, it's not about personality, but of course, I will not be supporting ending the charter this evening, but I'm only one person. So because I was here when it first started, and I know why we accepted it, because there were a number of parents who did not like Peoria Public School and who were moved. We lost parents to outside schools, different other places, simply because they needed a choice, or they wanted a choice. It seemed like every choice that we've ever had has been disseminated now. We had a choice when we had Roosevelt Magnet School, and we had a lot of people magnetizing toward Roosevelt for a choice. Then we had Edison, which was another choice that people chose because they want the best for their kids. And when we created Quest was because the people, the parents, who are the most important entities here, who wanted best for their children, they wanted to have a choice, and that's why we created it. Just that I want to say, moreover, I am not clear at all, and it makes me very nervous what PSD will do to meet the needs of these approximate 400 children that would be, we have so many complaints that the classes are overcrowded, the teachers are overwhelmed, and I'm saying, and then we have to meet the needs based on the level of the students as well. And so I'm wondering, I have not seen, or not convinced, I have not seen a plan, a really good plan to show what would we do, how would we do better with the students. First of all, how do we compare with Quest? I don't think we can talk about that tonight, but I'm just concerned that I'm not comfortable with the plan, which I have not really seen. I saw a sketch of one, a plan for this integration of students that we're talking about, and I'm always concentrating on the children. And finally, I don't know if Quest did, but I know PSD, before you make this decision, has not reached out to these parents. What parents don't know, and what they should know, is they have the power to determine what they want for their children. And they should demand what they want for their children. I was at a meeting over the weekend when people stood up and talked about how Peoria public school students can't read at grade level all the way through. And I had to defend all these things all the time. But parents should know, should be contacted. Parents should be surveyed to find out what they want for their students. We are treating parents like they don't know what they want for their students. We think we know what they want for their students, but I think that, we have to include the parents in these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ross. And Mrs. Ross, just to answer your question, there are 141 charter schools in Illinois.
Well, I know how many there are up there. I said downstate. I know it was only 5 downstate was set for downstate, and we were one of those 5.
Okay.
So I was wondering how we compared to those 5.
Okay.
President Murphy.
Mr. Wilson.
Appreciate those comments, Ms. Ross. I am curious if we can hear what does that transition look like? Kind of what Martha was alluding to. What does that look like? What's the plan for transitioning those students? Because not only do we have students, but you have teachers, you have employees. There's a lot of different moving parts that come with this type of decision. So not sure if this is the arena to ask that and for you to respond.
Right, so that's the next step.
Okay.
The board has to make the decision first, but we do have some ideas around, which I shared with the board around reunification and the schools that the students would be attending. So for middle school, for example, there are about 4 options. For high school, we have 1 option, well, actually about 2 options. 1 to 2 options.
Awesome. Now,
Dr. Karat. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll ask my question to her after you finish. Go ahead.
It's just real, and whatever that decision is made tonight, I just, and I think I've told you, I just want to, publicly say it. Whatever decision and however it happens, when it comes to, if that transition plan is to occur, I would like individuals a part of that. I will be watching that closely, and I think other board members should as well. We have, you know, community members, we have families, we have students, we have the teachers union, we have other unions. We really need to tap into that so it's not just, one, administration determining that, but all hands kind of on deck.
That makes sense. That's the plan.
Before
Dr.
we get,
Karat.
hang on one second, Ms. Ross. Ms. Board
Okay.
Member McConnell had her hand up first.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
First of all, I want to apologize that I'm not there in person because of weather, and I'm traveling. But but I just want the district to be proactive. If there are disciplinary issues with students in Quest as we migrate them, do we have a hardcore plan to manage that? We currently have some disciplinary, concerns, and we don't want to pile on anymore. We have to respect teachers. We have to have students who are raised to, and we must have a buy-in from the parents. Students must come to school ready to learn. Teachers must be supported by the parents, and this is a very serious matter. And I do want us to be transparent as a board, as a district, as leadership in our district, that as board member Wilson stated, and then also Mrs. Ross, that everybody is brought to the table so that it's not harmful to the students, and that we cultivate learning, because that is the purpose of school, and that we build some partnerships with these parents so that we can shift we have to shift our the energy and build on a quality education. And I just want us to be true to it, to follow through on it, and so that everybody understands. And I thank you for your time. And I want us to take this seriously, and that it's not up to just a small team of people, but that we will include parents and students, so that the process, should we decide either way, if we vote to keep Quest, we still need to be hands-on. There are quarterly meetings. Prayerfully, all this information, strategies were put in place, interventions. Our district has the wraparound center. We have Woodruff Vocational Tech, and I believe every student under our supervision should have access to whatever interventions and whatever educational opportunities that we offer, that every child has the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Ross.
Yeah, I had a question for Dr. Karat, and I should have written it down. You said that once the board votes on this, then you will put together a plan. I mean, how can we be an informed voter if you don't have a plan on what you're going to do with these children?
I did share the plan, Ms. Ross.
You gave us a one-page bullet kind of thing. I'm saying, how can we decide, what to do if we don't know what the plan is? It should be an extensive. I think that's what I see in this district, is that we don't have systems in place where it's seamless systems, where things just, we know what's going on. I think that's one of the biggest problems I see with us.
Well,
but anyway.
We're talking about 361 students that need to be reunified, and 167 middle school students and 194 high school students. And I did share with the board the plan and the locations that we were looking at.
Okay, so then the last board meeting, which I thought it was so icy, I couldn't get out of my driveway because I'd gotten dressed to go. But the last board meeting, we were told that there were a shortage of 15 teachers. And I asked the question, in those 15 classrooms, are there subs in there? And I was told yes. So I'm saying, and then like I said, teachers are always talking about they're have too many kids in the room. They don't have assistants. I'm just wondering what is the major plan? But I'm not going to get that tonight. I understand that. So I've made my decision that I have to know what's going on or be an informed voter before I vote on something. So thank you.
You're welcome. And as was referenced by you and Board Member McConnell and actually Board Member Wilson, there is actually a school closure plan committee that will be very, very inclusive as well, with specific details. But just a general idea, we're talking about 361 students.
Yeah, but that's a lot of students. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other board members with any other questions or comments?
Yes, and just so that the public knows that we publish who those people are who are part of this transition team, and that we are inclusive with parents and with leadership. It's just important to me as a public servant that we do everything on the table with accountability and with transparency so that we can demonstrate that we are here for the children and that we are inclusive of parents, students, and the leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Fraser.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to presentation by audience. Per the board policy 2:230, an individual may address the board at this time for no more than 5 minutes, with further time allotted as appropriate at the discretion of the chair and with the concurrence of the majority of the board. Total time on any one subject shall exceed 20 minutes only at the discretion of the chair and with the concurrence of the majority of the board. Each speaker will fill out a request to speak to the Board of Education card and present it to the board secretary before the meeting begins. Up first, we have Monica Cortez.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Gabriel Cortez, and I'm a junior student. I have been at Quest since I was 5th grade. Before my family decided to move to Quest, I wasn't doing great in school. For the first time in a long time, my grades started to improve. My mom was really happy about my improvement. In my freshman year, I was still keeping up with my grades, but my behavior wasn't the best. During my sophomore year, I had to move to California for family reasons. Now that I'm back, I'm happy to say that my grades are better than ever and that I'm already planning to attend dual credit classes. I want Quest to remain open because I value the work that my beloved teachers do every day for each of their students. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Nyrese Parkman. Did I get the first name correct?
It's pronounced Nyrese.
Nyrese, okay.
Okay, give me a second. Okay. My name is Nyrese Parkman. I am a parent of Lanaya Parkman and Malaya. It's not people like you guys know them, but just know I'm I'm a supporter of Quest Staying Open. I would like to start by saying that when my kids first originally got introduced to Quest, I was kind of nervous about the outcome. But however, upon my children being there, I was not disappointed. I'm getting kind of nervous. You got to bear with me 1 minute. Okay. So I personally believe that out of all the schools, that Quest does a good job with catering to the students' needs. But more specifically, it's really hard to cater to African American students and their curriculum and also their mindset. And so I believe that Quest, they do a great job at doing that and, just maintaining their behaviors. They do it for all children, but my thing is that I don't know if you guys know, but dealing with, African American kids sometimes can be difficult, and they do a job at catering to that no matter if it's individually or no matter as a group. They deal with the curriculum, they give good curriculum. Um, they they set programs in place to help them vent, as far as like, counseling and having the therapeutic time that they need, to get out of the classrooms or to get away if they need, to take a breath. You have teachers that support them and that help them through times and stuff, no matter if it's stuff that's just happening at home or stuff that they're going through, out of school or in school. Um, I believe that they do a great job at also, providing the kids with the things that they need when it comes to their education. They make sure that the children have all the necessities that they need to actually get their work done. They provide them with after-school programs in school and out of school that helps them as well. The teachers have no problem with taking the student aside and giving them that one-on-one time or that tutoring time that they need to improve, with their work. They also, I got a lot of things going on in my head, so I'll give you a minute. They also, like with the little resources that they do have, I think they do a really great job, and it was surprising to me, like, just like allowing the kids to be a part of the community and going out and having them do the things that they do, no matter like if that's choir, no matter if that's fundraiser. I know at some point in time they had the children in boxing, and band. They teach, like they hit on different type of cultures, and they teach the kids just about the world all in general. And I think that's great because like a lot of times I feel like personally the District 150 schools downplay that. And it's different because Quest, they broaden the spectrum and they also, come with knowledge, and I believe that's important with the kids because they make sure that they understand it and that they understand that, it's not just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not just us that matter, you matter too, your culture matters, your history matters. You have Indians, you have Mexicans, you have Latinos, you have Caucasians. They really fluctuate to make it feel and to allow the kids to know that they all matter. And I believe that's important. From just growing up and stuff, I don't look my age, but I'm getting up there. Um, it's really important. I mean, I believe personally myself, it's really important that we start to focus on our youth. A lot of times we wait till it's too late, and I work in mental health. And a lot of times, well, like all the time, I'm dealing with like damaged adults, no matter if that's from like rehab, PTSD, just like a variety of things. And a lot of that stuff and the trauma that they have, it comes from their childhood. So I think that Quest does a great job at focusing on our youth mentally and physically. Let's see. Every school has their bad apples, but I don't feel like that should limit them. I don't believe that should be a reason for them to be, I guess like kicked out. A lot of times they don't have access to the same thing as the PPS school district and stuff have, but they do a great job with what they do have, and they're doing their best when it comes to like as far as like notifying the parents. Like I know like for a lot of teachers, because I'm real active with the school. I go to like a lot of events. I go out of town with them. I'm always at the events type thing, and even like with the student-led conferences, they allow the student to do the conference themselves while they watch and they help. And I believe that's big as well. But going back to it, they I got a brain for it. They do a great job. I think I was touching on just about them like connecting with the kids mentally, and they care about the safety for the children. They always act in a timely manner, Like no matter if the kids are in and out of school, no matter what's going on in the community, they do a great job with that. They do it.
Right.
They update.
Not to
all
cut
the
you off, ma'am,
Yes.
but this has been your time limit has
I
gone off.
know.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. That's okay.
I got tons of
The
stuff to
speaker
say.
was a little quiet tonight, but
Okay.
did you have anything more that you needed to say? Is there a certain amount of time you needed to ask for more time for? Or
Yeah, just like 1 more minute, just to close it up.
is the rest of the board? Is the board
Is that
okay
okay?
with
Is
giving
it
one more
great?
minute? Okay, go ahead and set the time then for 1 minute.
Okay,
Yep.
so for my last minute, I think it's important that when schools go out in public, that they make a good impression, not just on our community, but just on the people that surround us. Quest does a great job with that, and you know, every time we go out, people are always happy to see us. They enjoy us and they encourage us on, and they also always talk about how well behaved the students are and how good that they're doing and things like that. And the students themselves, like when you go to their presentations and stuff at the school and the stuff they have at the school, like they put hard time and dedication into those things. And I feel like that shouldn't get overlooked either because they do put a lot into the work in spite of their scores and stuff. Unless you're actually going to experience it and you're there, like then you'll know. But they
Okay.
they do it. They play a role.
Okay, thank you very much. Up next, we have Tanya Jenkins.
Good evening, President Murphy, members of the board, and Superintendent Karat. I have prepared some remarks for you, and I couldn't keep up with the lawyer, Ms. Frazier, but I'm going to try to address some of those points as well this evening. One of the things that I would like to start off with is that I have done most of my career here at Peoria Public School. I started off as a special education teacher, as an artist and advocate of the arts. I was drawn to Quest when I was asked to participate as being their chief executive director because I have always been for students. Always been for students, and so I'm drawn to the underdog, if you will, that being special education students, those students that are in the arts, and programs that operate on a little bit different status because it takes students where they are and moves them forward. And so my comments tonight are going to be around some of the things that we have gone through with reauthorization, and then some of the points that your lawyer, Ms. Frazier, brought up. So I want to start off with the fact that the application process is no joke. Reauthorization, that since I've been here going through this, I came in starting off with the reauthorization, and now here we are again. And I have the sentiment that it's such a rigorous process that it would be amazing if all Peoria Public Schools had to stand tall and meet the criteria that is in this application process. As we worked with Peoria Public Schools on the rubric that was designed, it was designed that we had to meet an all or nothing scoring process. And from the beginning, we said that's not quite the way the intent of the law is meant to be, and that there should be some room for progress, and that progress, what the state calls is reasonable progress. And so for us, when we take a look at what Quest was told was, we were told back when we started this whole process that we would be given partial scores and partial points for having some progress and what the state calls again as reasonable progress. As you were told tonight that we only met 3 of those goals, that's not really as accurate if you're going to really looking at the progress versus actually meeting that specific target, such as we met 2% and not 2.5%. So it's shown on your screen that it was not met. If you look at pages 18 to 22 in our application process, which is no joke either, you will find that we also presented remarks regarding each goal, and to Ms. Ross's point of how many goals every charter school is given, when you take a look at that deeper, you won't find such goals that are such deep that we are expected to meet. But we went back and we said, let's meet that challenge. I like a good challenge, and this is definitely a good challenge. So we went back as a team and said, hey, we are going to be given some extra points for actually making progress, so we can deal with this. When we went to the Peoria Public School quarterly meetings, we were told that no, we would not be able to get the scoring of how that was done. So we went back and we scored ourselves. And we said that, hey, here's where we need to make some growth, and here's where we can hit those targets. And let's be real, 94% for an attendance goal, that's an A+. Again, I would challenge Peoria Public Schools to tell us how many of their schools are hitting 94% for attendance, but that's not the focal point tonight. So for us, one of the things that we were clear about was on those pages, we were able to share a chart with you that also showed that we either met the goal, which was what Ms. Frazier reported was we met those 3, or that we met adequate progress or reasonable progress, is what the state says. We also had a conversation with Illinois State Board of Education, which is referenced because that's who does ultimately make these decisions. And one of the things that that representative said to us in each of the things that we discussed with them in our meetings over the phone with them was that Quest indeed was making adequate progress, again, reasonable progress as far as the state was concerned. And the way we know that that's true is because we were targeted as a middle school for our one subgroup, special education. And remember, that was my undergraduate degree was in special education, and as a teacher, I was a special educator. And so one of the things that we went to work on was making sure that our subgroups all made adequate progress or reasonable progress. And that's why we now stand before you and we have commendable for both schools, not just one, but both. In my closing remarks, I would like to have 1 other minute if possible.
Would the board approve 1 extra minute collectively?
Yes.
And yes, okay. And just as a reminder, we are maxing at 20 minutes on any one topic. So, but go ahead. Yes, you've been
Okay,
approved for a
thank
minute.
you. I'll
Yep.
take 1 last minute and finish. So we fast forward, and after talking with the state, again, we feel that the goals that we've submitted and showed you where we've made progress, we have met that requirement of making reasonable progress. We also provided a color-coded sheet for you in our public hearing, and there were no goals that did not either meet or make reasonable progress. And so quickly, just to wrap up, one of the things I want to address is the STEAM focus. One of the things that we have done since I've been in my tenure is to make sure that we not only offer classes that Peoria Public Schools offers, but we really move it toward Project Lead the Way, which is really what the state recognizes as those types of classes that are really STEAM focused. We have transitional math, which is an MOU with ICC that provides that type of math that they then get their credit for college. And no, we do not do AP, we do dual credit, and we have continuously in our board quarterly meetings shown where we are making progress. So our master schedule goes by what students want, not by what we offer. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And we have a few others who are listed, but we have time for 1 more on the Quest Charter Academy at the 5-minute. That will complete the 20-minute mark for any one topic. So Mr. Glenn Ross.
Because we are in our time, I defer my time to our council.
Okay. So Timothy Higas?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you, President Murphy and the board, and Dr. Karat and the administration team for all your hard work in this rechartering process. Thank you, Ms. Satterley, for your help in your preparation of your presentation as well. I understand there are many factors and perspectives to consider this evening, and I appreciate your thoughtful review of Quest's renewal application. One concern that's enumerated on this evening's agenda is Quest's ratio of certified staff. Quest acknowledges that by law, at least 75% of the individuals employed in instructional positions must hold teaching licenses. First, there appears to be a misunderstanding regarding what is required under the charter school law. The term instructional positions is not expressly defined in the school code or in the charter school law, but is left to be defined by the charter agreement under subsection C of section 10 of the charter school law. The current charter, however, does not clearly define what constitutes an instructional position, but merely requires compliance with the charter school law. Quest has historically interpreted instructional staff to include its principals, math, science, social studies, and language arts instructors. Although personnel percentages have been in flux over the term of the charter, Quest has generally been able to maintain at least 75% of licensed staff in those positions. Today, Quest employs 40 instructional staff, including art, math, art, music, ELL, and PE. 30 of those 40 positions are filled by instructors licensed and endorsed in their content area, which is equal to 75%, the statutory threshold. Additionally, 3 staff members are working to obtain their certification. To reiterate what was set forth in the charter renewal application, Quest has worked tirelessly to meet and usually exceed this requirement by working with current staff to obtain the appropriate certification and endorsements. Quest also maintains advertisements and job postings for positions currently filled by non-licensed staff in hopes of filling as many positions as possible with licensed staff. We're all keenly aware of the teacher shortage felt across the state and the country, and Peoria is no exception. The most recent educator shortage report published by the Illinois Association of Regional Superintendents found that 28% of posted educator positions were unfilled or filled by less than qualified hires in the 2022-23 school year statewide. A benefit of the experience that Quest provides, however, is that many of our educators also possess real-life professional experience in the field they teach, which offers Quest students a unique opportunity to learn practical as well as theoretical knowledge and skills. Obviously, maintaining a high-qualified workforce is an area of focus for every school, and Quest is no different. The effort to comply with and exceed the statutory requirements for licensed instructional personnel will continue, and Quest shares the board's commitment to ensuring our students are taught by talented and well-qualified instructors. Additionally, tonight's option to not renew alleges that Quest performance fell short of mutually established academic goals, and as a result, Quest continued existence would not be in the best interest of students. Although we disagree with the statement that Quest's performance fell short of the mutually agreed goals, the rationale also does not accurately reflect the standard of review set forth by the statute and by the contract. Subsection C2 of Section 9 of the Charter Schools Law provides that in order to not renew a charter, a local school board must clearly demonstrate the charter school failed to meet or make reasonable progress toward the achievement of the content standards or pupil performance standards identified in the charter. Moreover, Section 4C of our charter contract provides that the board values student growth and shall consider Quest progress towards any goal it does not completely obtain. The charter renewal application included the student achievement data for 2022 and 23 school years, which was published on ISB's report card, and which was not available at the time of the administration's preliminary performance report. The data from the most recent school year establishes continued growth trends in nearly all of the students' academic goals and shows that Quest is making reasonable progress towards those goals. The board extended our previous charter by 2 years to allow Quest to establish those growth metrics, recognizing that the pandemic would have grave impacts on our students and their academic performance. If the board chooses to focus only on the data from the years 21 and 22, or 2020 to 21 and 21 to 22, provided in the preliminary performance report, the intent to give Quest an opportunity to show its growth outside of the impact of the pandemic is thwarted because you would be evaluating Quest on the same data that the board recognized 2 years ago would be an unreasonable basis for evaluation.
Okay. And that is our time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for carefully considering our application.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Well, to President Murphy, how many more cards did we have?
There would be 2 more speakers.
Okay. Now, just as a board member, I would like to bring it up, and I don't know how this works, but this is a very, very important decision, and I wouldn't be upset at hearing those last 2 speakers. Given the time limit that we do have, I understand that there was a 20-minute time frame given to them, but I think this is exceptional due to the nature of the decision. I don't know how that goes. Again, I'll let you.
We'll just take a consensus of the board if they want to extend these out for these last 2 speakers. So, obviously, you're in favor.
Yes.
In favor.
Yeah.
Mr. Klaus. Yes. Okay. Dr. Ranking. Okay. Ms. Ross.
Yes.
Ms. McConnell.
Yes.
Okay. Then yes. We'll go ahead and allow the last 2 speakers to speak without any additional time allotted, so you'll each get the 5 minutes to address the board. So we'll go up next. We'll go ahead and go back then to Mr. Glenn Ross.
Good evening. Thank you, President Murphy, Vice President Dr. Rankin, Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Karat, District Administration, for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Glenn Ross, and I chair the Board of Directors at Quest Charter Academy. We understand the time and effort and that's been required to do this charter review, and we appreciate your attention and concern on this important matter. As you know, the board meeting on December 11, several others and I presented information about Quest Charter Academy's charter renewal application. At that time, there were a few questions from the board, and to the extent we were not able to answer them fully that evening, Quest has followed up with those board members to provide comprehensive answers to those questions. This includes the current enrollment numbers, including the breakdown by grade level and student to faculty ratios. Since that time, we have received several questions from members of the board, as well as questions from various stakeholders. We have, as a board and school administration, responded to those questions in turn. They included the questions about statutory obligations to ensure that students are placed in a school that are higher performing than the charter school in the event of a non-renewal. A question regarding how Quest funding is allocated from districts on a per capita student tuition on the basis of enrolled students, and not the authorized maximum that has been suggested. A question regarding Quest enrollment trends that focused on the preparation for students who are entering college at a 4-year or 2-year colleges. We also invited the district to send us any remaining questions or concerns that they may have in anticipation of this evening's vote. We value the board's interest and concern about Quest's future and its relationship with Peoria Public Schools and District 150, and remain deeply committed to transparency and accountability during this charter renewal process and beyond. This evening, we would like to emphasize how valuable we find the increased communication over the term of the most recent charter. We feel that by meeting regularly throughout the term, Quest and the district have been able to address issues or concerns immediately, which have resulted in a more efficient and effective response. In our current proposals, we have requested renewal for a 5-year term because we anticipate an ongoing communication will continue this longer term. It is both manageable and beneficial to the district and Quest. Quest and the district will be able to address any remaining areas of concern before the charter renewal process begins. A longer charter renewal term allows Quest and the district to focus on providing the best educational experiences possible for students it serves by lessening the recurring administrative burden of charter renewal processes. We are deeply cognizant of the burden and the thorough review of the charter renewal application imposes, and grateful to you for your careful review. We hope to limit that burden for future boards by remaining dedicated to the spirit of the authorizing district's responsibilities to maintain high standards for and responsible oversight of the charter school. We look forward to working with the board to ensure that continued student growth and success for the Quest students. We believe that Quest serves an important role in choice within the Peoria education landscape. And we thank you for the thoughtful consideration of our renewal application. It is my sincere hope that you will vote in favor of Quest's renewal application And we will have the opportunity to continue to work through together to provide our community students with high quality and well-tailored educational opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, and then our last speaker, LaMonica Pettit? Pettit? Okay, Pettit.
Well, I had a card to put in the box. I'm sorry. Is that where I was supposed to put it after I filled it? I was in the wood box.
No,
What was I supposed to do with it?
it goes down here onto the table at the front of the
I
room.
put it in the box because that's what the receptacle was by where the cards were.
Oh,
I've got a very short statement, so if you would allow me, I appreciate it.
okay. Monica, you can go ahead and approach. Yeah, and then we'll grab your card.
Well, my name is LaMonica, and I have 3 kids that go to Quest. They're a junior, a sophomore, and a freshman. They have been there since 5th grade. And I also have one that graduated from Quest also just a couple years ago. I'm neither close or stay open. I also have kids that go to District 150. I have 2 6th graders that go to Lincoln. I feel like both schools are amazing. My kids have gotten plenty out of District 150 and Quest. I never had any problems out of Quest. I've always been very open with Mrs. McCracken and Ms. Jenkins and Mr. Smith and different things like that. My biggest concern with the school would just be, I want my kids to have every opportunity that any other parent would want for their child. There's things that I found out that District 150 offers their kids that Quest don't offer their kids. My junior, she has not entered in driver's ed. When my oldest graduated, she graduated without going into driver's ed and different things like that. I would just ask the school if they can just, if you guys do decide to keep the school open, just look into those things. Like, see if we can bring more sports to the kids. See if we can get this driver's ed things going. See if we can start donating more money or doing more fundraisers so our kids can start having the things that District 150 kids do have. I plan on keeping my kids in both schools. That's only because I want to see what will come, the outcome for both. I want to see what will become of my kids that go to District 150 and my kids that's going to also continue to be at Quest School. I told myself numerous of times I was going to pull them out of Quest, numerous of times. But it was something about Quest, and it was something about their staff that kept me at Quest. So once again, I don't feel like I'm a here or there. That's way above me. I just feel like as a parent, I want my kids to have those opportunities, and I know that Quest can be capable of this. I'm just waiting to see it, because once again, my son's been there since his 5th grade year. He's a sophomore now. And boy, have they went over and over with things with my kids, and they have went to bat for them numerous of times. And I appreciate the staff there for doing that for my kids. They made sure my daughter graduated when I didn't even think that it was going to happen, because she was just so back and forth. But with the staff and their help and things, they made sure she graduated. But I graduated from Central, so I'm still just kind of stuck in the middle. I want the best for Quest, and I want the best for my children also. And if whatever decision you guys make, that's what you guys make. But I just hope and pray that if it do stay open, that these opportunities that I'm asking you guys, and I will be bringing up PTO and stuff like that, just if they can get those same opportunities, because they deserve it just like any other child do. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and then our last speaker this evening will be James Stowell.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Crott, Mrs. Ross, President Murphy, and fellow board members. I went to Manual, but I agree with everything the Central alumni had to say, so I appreciate that. A little over a decade ago, I had the privilege of sitting up there and voted to help provide Peoria families with choice. Today, I can tell you I proudly serve our board and its mission. For the last almost 4 years, I've been teaching math and other classes. I'm fortunate to work with many dedicated educators. I'm asking you to continue to allow parents and families this choice, a commendable choice that hopefully with your board's leadership to our board, we can move on to exemplary. I'm sure you're aware that our board unfortunately has lost over this last year 3 members, 3 outstanding members in our community. I'm sure touched each and every one of you in your capacity. We all know and we've suffered from what's transpired at another board when it lost its ability to provide the kind of oversight a fiduciary board needs to provide. So I stand before you just a humble educator. I'm part of that percentage that's not yet certified. I'm on Teacher Ready, Session 7, intensive lesson number 6. Okay? And when you talk about different types of instruction, when I taught business math for 2 years, I was out interviewing in our community minority business owners to get their perspective on tape so that I could show them to our students so they could see what success looks like in our community. Those were my bell ringers and exit tickets, introducing our community into our school. We've got passionate educators. We've got a commitment to helping these children grow. I'm now teaching 8th grade at the middle school, and so I hope to be part of showing that that grows into commendable and further to exemplary. I know my NWEA scores. So give us this opportunity, empower our board with your insight and all the research that you've done to extend this contract so that our children that thrive and benefit in this environment can continue to do so. They deserve the choice. Our parents and our community deserve the choice. Thank you.
This time, we will now ask for a response to audience presentation.
Thank you. I think I'll defer. We had lots of conversations, and our presentation and my opening comments, I think, is sufficient.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to approve the December 11, 2023 minutes as presented.
So moved. Second.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Mr. Claus.
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell.
Aye.
Dr. Rankin.
Aye.
Mrs. Ross.
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
I don't think I got my neck. Did I say aye?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. All right. Moving on now to information items. Number 1, superintendent update.
Well, my note disappeared, but that's okay. I have it. I'm very excited to share with our listening audience, our parents, that we do have something that's called, it is an exciting initiative, an innovative initiative that I'm really excited about. It's called the Superintendent Learn at Home Challenge, and it is funded. We've been blessed to receive some discretionary funds from State Representative Jahan Gordon Booth. And I think there was a reference today, or one of my meetings today, where we're doing a lot more to engage our families. And so it's for grades kindergarten through 8th graders, and I'm asking them to learn certain important skills at home. And it's very prescribed and outlined, and they'll be receiving information in the mail and on social media as well. But there is something for K1, kindergartners through 1st grade, then 2nd through 4th, and then 5th through 8th. And if they're able to fulfill and show that they've mastered these important skills at home, everybody will receive something. whether it's a tablet, a bicycle, or a gift card in the amount of $100 to a food store or Walmart, one of those things. So keep your eye out. We will be sending the majority of them in the mail because postage was a little high, and we wanted to. Anyway, so keep your eye on the advertisement, either from your child's school, your principal, through the mail, on social media. But there is something for everyone in grades K through 8. Every child can win something: a tablet, a bike, or a $100 gift card, just by learning certain skills at home. And I'm working with Amanda Brown. Halima's done a nice job with the packaging. Actually, board, I've also given each one of you, here it is right here, Superintendent Learn at Home Challenge. And there's an iPad, there's a bike, and for the other ones, there's also a $100 gift card. And it tells you exactly what you have to do, learn some critical benchmarks, and it's not a lottery. We have reserved something for everyone. Is that exciting?
It's pretty exciting.
All right. So my executive directors are out, so work with your principals and parents. Actually, I did a little video, right, Halima? When will that come out? This week. Okay, so thank you, Halima. Every time I have these crazy ideas, she's always working with me. But Superintendent Learn at Home Challenge, I'm really excited about that. So that's my update. Thank you, board.
Thank you very much. Okay. Financial update, Mr. Willis.
Year-to-date receipts were $132.4 million. That was about $12 million more than what we reported at our last board meeting. That increase is primarily due to local taxes and state funding. In terms of expenditures, year-to-date expenditures total $141.1 million. That's about $8 million more than our meeting on January the 8th. Most of that was payroll-related expenses. Year-to-date, we continue to trend better than budget. We'll continue to watch both receipts and expenditures of the district over coming months. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
No real questions over that specifically, but Board Member McConnell did have one question. She was curious with that initiative that you were talking about and probably tying it in with you. How much will this initiative cost and who will oversee and manage this?
And where are the grant funds coming, or where are the funds coming from?
Yep. So the funds, as I mentioned, it's from State Representative Jahan Gordon Booth. Actually, a number of school districts in Peoria County received some funding. So our funding was really used to go hard on reading and mathematics. So actually, we started it. When did we start it? Last year, I think maybe August, September. So we've been implementing it. There are a lot of tutors. Every schools have additional tutors, data specialists. So Amanda Brown is overseeing it. We have family liaison as well, people who are going home providing packets to the families. Initially, we started off with identifying struggling students who needed additional support. And so there were sight words, 100 sight words. There were books in there. There were journals where we were asking parents to work with the kids on the sight words and reading to the child, and then doing some journaling as well. So that's how we started off. So we did have some additional funds, and so that's when I came up with the idea around the challenge. So how much?
How much? Yeah, I think Ms. McConnell was asking how much.
Yeah, it's about $2 million.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Mr. Willis? Seeing none, proposed expenditures over $2,500. Okay. Report of requests under the Freedom of Information Act and status of such requests.
Thank you, President Murphy. Since our last board meeting on January 8th, we have received one new request and one request is completed. And there were two pending requests noted on January 8th. Of those, one request remains open. We have received three requests for this calendar year, and we have a running total since January 1 in the amount of $150 to work on those requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on now to the action items on the consent agenda.
The consent agenda consists of, number 1, gifts to school district, year-to-date, $111,677.09. Donation, notable donations are a 3D printer for the value of $500 from Mark Siaka at Komatsu for Lincoln grade K-8, and a donation of $1,500 from Representative Jihan Gordon Booth for Peoria Grow Your Own program. Number 2, payment of bills. Number 3, payment for travel. Number 4, human resource report. Number 5, field trip approval, students traveling to California for a speech competition. Number 6, Richwoods High School soccer team trip. Number 7, Richwoods High School MJROTC trip. Number 8, Richwoods High School bowling trip. Number 9, Richwoods High School bowling trip. Number 10, memorandum of understanding with the Peoria Federation of Teachers regarding the FY23 teacher evaluation process developed by the RIF Joint Committee. And number 11, EZ routing software. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda presented? Were there
Mr.
any?
Murphy?
I'm sorry. Were there any questions? I apologize. Sorry, my head's not. Were there any?
I'd like to pull. Yeah,
what
I'd
would you
like to pull number 4
Number 4,
for a separate vote.
separate vote.
Human resource.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can I get an approval then to approve the consent agenda other than item number 4, the human resource report as presented?
Second.
So moved.
Okay. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Claus. Mrs. McConnell.
Aye.
Dr. Rankin.
Aye.
Mrs. Ross.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson. President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes, the motion carries.
All right. Discussion on the human resource report number 4.
No discussion, separate vote.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Costick. Mrs. McConnell.
Aye.
Dr. Rankin.
Aye.
Mrs. Ross.
Nay.
Mr. Wilson. President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, motion carries.
All right, thank you. All right, now we move to the deliberation agenda. I will be reading number 12. After the consent items have been voted on, I now bring to you that this is the deliberation agenda number 12, the charter renewal application decision on Quest Charter Academy. The proposed action that the Board of Education adopt one of the 2 options outlined below regarding the renewal application from Quest Charter Academy. Option number 1, approve Quest's 5-year renewal application on the condition that the parties enter into a charter agreement that will be acceptable to the Peoria Public Schools Board of Education. Or option 2, deny Quest's 5-year renewal application on the grounds that A, Quest's performance fell short of mutually established academic goals, B, as a result of not meeting mutually established performance goals, Quest's continued existence will not be in the best interest of students, C, Quest has failed to meet the applicable charter school laws with regarding the statutory 75% threshold for certified teaching staff in its workforce. So at this point, in order to open up conversation and deliberation on this item, I am inviting a motion in a second from any board member for one of these 2 options.
I make a motion for option number 2, deny Quest 5-year renewal application.
Second.
All right. Madam Secretary?
No, we discussed first.
Yeah, okay, discuss,
Excuse
sorry.
me, is legal part of this because do we have to have 2 motions? Where's legal on this? You're supposed to choose one.
I did. I made the motion for option number 2.
This is fine.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, and go ahead and any discussion or, go, Dr. Ranking?
So I want to honor that 14 years ago, when the vision of Quest Charter School in the Peoria community, it was probably the correct decision for the time and place. However, that was 14 years ago, and the community has changed quite a bit. Students have changed, family engagement has changed, society has changed. We're not in the same place we were 14 years ago, and it appears that Quest has not grown with the times, has not shown compliance with the agreed upon charter, and continues to do operationally and academically a disservice to the children in our community. For example, while we talked about the 75% of certified teachers, the fact that there is a continued new staff turnover, as shown tonight with the high instructor turnover rate, displays the fact that personnel who is highly trained in their field is not being employed at Quest. Again, it was also stated by the lawyer for Quest that they have highly trained individuals in their respective fields. However, as shown in the referral rate displayed by our lawyer tonight, there's one thing to be highly trained in your field and another to be highly trained in classroom management to decrease the referral rate that was displayed tonight. The students at Quest have not been served with the high quality of education that is set as a standard here at Peoria District 150. I know that we have our sayings here at District 150, such as every day, such as in attendance. We have the saying of reimagining as continuing to provide choices. I believe personally that this is the next step of that reimagining and innovating by continuing to do what is right fiscally for our students and constituents, as well as what is right for the students academically and socially, and what is in best interest for the families in our community. We often talk about how media portrays District 150 in a negative light. We want to change that rhetoric around PPS and provide what we do provide to our families and students. Our lawyer tonight shared many of the great choices and various learning options we provide here at PPS. Knowing that PPS is a great place, we are able to provide those choices to our students through an individualized lens. We ensure that RTI, the tiered system of support, is in place. We provide lots of outside engagement through different types of field trips and field experiences, as well as everything we provide at Woodruff. And we make sure it's all implemented effectively. For our students and families, we also serve fiscally responsible and academically responsible. As one board member tonight, and for many of those reasons as well as others that have been shared, I will not be voting in favor of renewing the charter for Quest Academy.
Thank you. Any other board members? All right, hearing and seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you please call?
You should.
Which one?
Can I re-identify which one we're voting on, just so everyone's clear?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. I made a motion for option 2 to deny the Quest's 5-year renewal application.
And who seconded?
Chase.
Was there a proper second?
Yep, Mr. Clouston.
Thank you.
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Ranking,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
No.
President Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes, 1 nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We only have 6
Five.
people here.
No, we have 5
I'm sorry,
ayes.
5 ayes.
Yeah, there's only 6 people.
One
here.
I'm
nay.
sorry, 5 ayes.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Wilson.
Agenda item number 13, policy number 5:120, employee ethics, code of professional conduct, and conflict of interest. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve the attached updated policy.
So moved.
Second.
Oh,
Okay.
second, go.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Rankin,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
I'm sorry. Agenda item number 14, policy number 5:150, personnel records. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve the attached updated policy.
Second.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Rankin,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
Agenda item number 15, policy number 6:160, limited English proficiency students, limited English proficiency students / English learners. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve the attached updated policy.
Second.
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Rankin,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
Item number 16, policy number 7:180, prevention of and response to bullying, intimidation, and harassment. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve the attached updated policy.
Second.
Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Rankin,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
Agenda item 17, policy number 7:190, student behavior. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve the attached updated policy.
Second.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Rankin,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
Agenda item number 18, policy number 7:340, student records. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve the attached updated policy.
Second.
Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Rankin,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
Agenda item number 19, policy number 7:345. 345. Use of educational technology, student data, privacy, and security. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve the attached updated policy.
Second.
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Rankin,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
Agenda number 20, policy number 8:30, community relations. Proposed action that the Board of Education approve the attached updated policy.
Second.
Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Claus,
Aye.
Mrs. McConnell,
Aye.
Dr. Rankin,
Aye.
Mrs. Ross,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
President Murphy.
Aye.
We have 6 ayes. Motion carries.
All right. Moving on now to the presentation and suggestions by board members.
Yep.
Dr. Rankin.
Yes.
hear you.
Dr. Crott, now that we have made the final vote tonight, I would love to have at the next meeting a clear transition plan. I know that you have provided us with kind of an outline, but if we can have a larger presentation on a clear transition plan so that everyone on the board knows exactly what to expect.
And this is a piggyback on that, Dr. Ryan King, Vice President Dr. Ryan King, appreciate that. I just want to reiterate that I really want to see the stakeholders at the table for that transition plan, man. Like, I can't stress that enough, and I don't, want to keep bothering you at all, but if you can, please ensure, that our stakeholders are involved in this transition piece, because, again, this was a huge decision that was made tonight, and we need to ensure, that things are taken care of the right way, and that individuals are involved.
I appreciate that to both Dr. Rankin and Board Member
And Mr.
Wilson.
Chair.
And if you do have any ideas, or any individuals that you would like to be at the table, feel free to just text me or send an email to me, like you normally do.
Absolutely.
I would really appreciate that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. But we'll do.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like for us to be sure to include Quest parents and students. We can either handpick some or we can ask for some volunteers. I really like the parent who has students in both schools. I didn't capture her name, but I think she would be a great resource for us and any other parents, teachers, or administrative lead at Quest. If we could include them in the process, I think it would be fair, and they are indeed stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member McConnell.
Thank you. Anything else? Any suggestions? Seeing none. Reports from board committees.
Buildings and Ground will meet on this Wednesday at 10. Is it 10 or 10:30, Cammy?
It's at 10:30.
10:30. And also the new committee that we formed for Comprehensive School Safety Committee will meet also on Wednesday at 2 o'clock.
Any others? I get a motion
And the
to-
policy committee, when is our next scheduled meeting for February? Did we establish that? I don't recall.
I'm not sure we have yet, but as soon as we do, we would definitely want to. We'll definitely notify.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? Can I please get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.